the wedding night. Even today the phrase evokes a sense of anticipation, a potent blend of excitement and nerves. It's a night filled with dreams and expectations, a moment that many have fantasized about for years. For us, it symbolizes the culmination of romance, the start of a shared life built on love and commitment. It's a private celebration of a bond that has been nurtured and cherished. But in the Middle Ages, the wedding night carried a significantly different weight, often far removed from notions of romantic love. It was a night fraught with obligations and societal pressures. It was less about personal desires and more about societal expectations, a public affirmation of a contract that extended far beyond the two individuals involved. The presence of witnesses was not uncommon, adding to the pressure. Imagine a world lit by flickering candlelight, where the air hangs heavy with incense and the murmur of whispered blessings. The atmosphere was thick with tradition and the weight of expectations. This was the world of the medieval wedding night, a world governed by tradition, pragmatism, and a social order vastly different from our own. Every action was steeped in ritual and meaning. To truly understand the medieval wedding night, we must shed our modern sensibilities and step back into a time when marriage was primarily a pragmatic arrangement. It was a union of families, not just individuals. Forget notions of fairy tale romance. This was a world where alliances were forged, inheritances secured, and families intertwined through a union often orchestrated long before the bride and groom reached manhood age. The stakes were high, and the consequences of failure could be severe. This essay delves into the historical realities of medieval wedding nights, separating fact from fiction and exploring the social, legal and cultural forces that shaped this pivotal event. We will examine the customs, the laws and the personal stories that reveal the true nature of these nights. Prepare to be surprised, perhaps even shocked, as we uncover the truth behind the myths and delve into a world where the personal and the political were inextricably intertwined. The medieval wedding night was a complex event, rich with significance and far-reaching implications. In the popular imagination, the Middle Ages are often romanticized as a time of chivalry and courtly love. While these elements certainly existed, they were often reserved for the elite and rarely played a significant role in the lives of ordinary people, particularly when it came to marriage. For the vast majority, marriage was not a matter of the heart, but a matter of practicality, a strategic alliance negotiated for social, economic or political gain. Imagine being promised to a virtual stranger while still a child, your future predetermined by the dictates of family and fortune. This was the reality for many medieval couples who had little say in their choice of spouse. Marriages were often arranged between families to strengthen ties, consolidate land holdings or settle debts. Love, while not entirely absent, was often a secondary concern, something that might blossom after marriage but was by no means a prerequisite. This lack of romantic agency might seem stifling to our modern sensibilities, but within the context of medieval society, it made perfect sense. Marriage was a cornerstone of the social order, a means of ensuring stability, continuity and prosperity, not just for the couple themselves, but for their extended families and even their communities. In this system, the wedding night wasn't about celebrating romantic love, but about sealing a legally binding contract. It was the moment when the agreement hammered out between families, often over months or even years, was finally physically consummated. The legal framework surrounding marriage in the Middle Ages was surprisingly complex, involving numerous steps and formalities that might seem foreign to us today. It was a far cry from the simple exchange of vows we might imagine, with layers of legal and social obligations intertwined. The process often began with a betrothal, a formal agreement between the families of the bride and groom that was legally binding and often made years in advance, especially for those of noble birth. This agreement was not just a promise, but a contract that could have significant social and economic implications. Think of it as the medieval equivalent of signing a prenuptial agreement, outlining the terms of the union and the financial obligations of each party. These documents were meticulously crafted and witnessed, ensuring that both families were held to their promises. Central to these negotiations was the dowry, a sum of money, property or goods that the bride's family provided to the groom or his family. This dowry was not just a gift but a crucial part of the marriage contract, often determining the financial stability of the new household. The dowry served as a form of financial security for the bride, a way of ensuring her well-being in her new household. It was a safeguard, ensuring that she would be cared for, even if unforeseen circumstances arose. However, it also represented a significant financial burden on the bride's family and could sometimes be used as a bargaining chip in marriage negotiations. The size and value of the dowry could influence the desirability of the match, making these negotiations both delicate and critical. The actual marriage ceremony itself could take various forms, from simple declarations of consent exchanged at the church door to elaborate rituals conducted within the grand halls of cathedrals. These ceremonies were not just personal milestones, but public events that reinforced social bonds and community ties. Regardless of the setting, the emphasis was on publicly acknowledging the union and obtaining the blessing of both the church and the community. This public recognition was essential, as it legitimized the marriage in the eyes of society and God. Once the vows were exchanged and the necessary legal documents signed, the couple was officially considered man and wife. This legal recognition was crucial, as it conferred rights and responsibilities upon both parties. But the journey was far from over. The legal and social formalities were just the beginning of their life together. The true test, the one that cemented the union in the eyes of God and man, was still to come, the consummation of the marriage on the wedding night. This act was seen as the final seal on the marriage contract, making the union complete and binding. The bedding ceremony, as it was known, was a tradition steeped in symbolism and shrouded in a curious mix of public spectacle and private anxieties. This unique ritual marked the transition from the wedding festivities to the intimate union of the couple, blending the boundaries between public celebration and private moments. Contrary to popular belief, the medieval wedding night was not always a completely private affair. In fact, the level of public involvement could be quite surprising to modern sensibilities. The level of public participation varied greatly, depending on social standing and local customs. In some regions, the community's involvement was seen as a way to ensure the legitimacy of the marriage. For those of wealth and status, the bedding ceremony could be a grand occasion, an extension of the wedding feast itself. Nobles and royals often turned this into a lavish event, with guests partaking in the final moments of the day's celebrations. Guests might accompany the couple to their bedchamber, showering them with ribald jokes, blessings for fertility, and sometimes even helping to prepare the marriage bed. This was not just a form of entertainment, but also a way to publicly endorse the union. Imagine the pressure on the young couple, their every blush and fumble scrutinized by an audience. The presence of onlookers could turn what should be a private moment into a nerve-wracking experience. For the lower classes, the ceremony was generally a more muted affair, witnessed by a select few family members or neighbours. These smaller gatherings were no less significant, though they lacked the grandeur of noble ceremonies. However, even in these more intimate settings, The pressure to consummate the marriage was palpable. The act of consummation was not merely a personal milestone, but a public declaration of the marriage's validity. Consummation wasn't just about personal fulfillment, it was a societal imperative, the act that transformed a betrothed couple into a truly wed man and wife in the eyes of God and the law. This act was often witnessed or at least confirmed by attendants to ensure its completion. The bedding ceremony, in all its variations, highlights the public nature of marriage in the Middle Ages. It was a communal event, reflecting the collective values and norms of the society. It was a community affair, a social contract witnessed and affirmed by the wider society in which the couple lived. The involvement of the community underscored the importance of marriage as a social institution. This public dimension of the wedding night, so different from our modern emphasis on privacy, underscores the profound differences between medieval and contemporary perspectives on marriage. While today we view marriage as a deeply personal union, in medieval times it was a public contract, a union that required the endorsement and participation of the community.